Welcome to another episode of Kalina's Corner. On this episode, we will interview Ms. Valerie Allen, the Program Director and Coordinator of Casa Family Systems. On this episode, she will teach us methods on how to combat domestic violence. Stay tuned for this exclusive interview.
2 outs with a runner on first base. Now the big guy comes out to bat, hitting .342 with 92 RBIs and 36 homers. First pitch is fouled between.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Thank you for coming back to the corner. Ms. Allen, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm well. Could you give us a brief description of what Casa Family Shelter is?
Casa Family Systems is a nonprofit agency that works with the entire family member. The services that we provide affects not just the individual, the victim, or the batterer. It also affects their entire family.
What are some of the goals of Casa Family System?
It is our goal to go out and collaborate with other agencies where we can serve our community near and far on domestic violence issues, sexual assault issues, children assault issues, and or community advocacy programs.
What are some of these programs?
Some of the programs that we have here at CASA, first of all, we have our Alternative Methods program, which pretty much deals with the Batterers Interventions program, which is a 26-week program. We also have our Domestic Violence program and our Community Advocacy program, as well as individual and group counseling.
Is there a link with adults who are involved in domestic violence and teens?
There is a link. As I said before, it does affect the entire family, so that if there is some unhealthy issues going on in a family, it is definitely going to affect the children as well.
Is there a connection between the teens involved in domestic violence? So say, for instance, if the teenager saw his or her mom being abused, is it likely that they'll also do the same thing?
Definitely. It can be a learned behavior. When small children grow up in a home where there's unhealthy relationships or that unhealthy environment, that learned behavior will grow up in that child, so that when they become an adult or become the dating age, oftentimes they will exhibit some of those same behavior patterns that their parents themselves have performed.
Do you find that in the classrooms, who students actually speak out about that and admit that sometimes they live in households where domestic violence occurs?
A lot of times some of our students will feel comfortable enough to disclose while we're having a prevention session. And if they don't disclose in front of the group, usually they will ask at the end of the session, can I talk to you? And then they'll disclose then whether or not they had those type of situations happening at home.
Now, how do victims respond to the programs that you all provide?
Well, first of all, the victim is going to be the one that always thinks that it is their fault. Oftentimes they are embarrassed. Oftentimes they don't seek professional help immediately. Usually they will already have a support system, but it takes time for them to overcome, first of all, what they've gone through,
right,
and to be able to say that they need help.
Now, domestic violence has no discrimination on gender, so are there women batterers?
There are just as many women batterers today as there are male batterers, and it actually, women and young ladies are becoming very much aggressive than what they have been before.
Really?
Really.
Now, what about active and passive bystanding?
With our active and passive bystanders, we encourage everyone, first of all, to be an active bystander. Too many times, people in general, at schools, at the mall, wherever, have witnessed altercations, have witnessed arguments or whatever. Usually people are first to say, it's not any of my business.
Right.
It's not anybody I know. Let me remain safe. Let me just keep on moving. What we need to let our community know is that you don't have to become physically involved to be an active bystander. Simply calling 911 or simply making some type of distraction so that whatever is occurring can be stopped is being an active bystander. Oftentimes, students feel like, especially our middle and high school students, we always hear the word snitch from them. They feel like if they're going to tell or do something that's going to make them unpopular, they're going to lose friends, people are not going to want to hang out with them. So we usually do an empathy exercise with them when we're asking them, think of a woman that you love the most in the world. And if this woman was involved in a physical or emotional situation, wouldn't you want somebody to stand up for your mom?
Right.
So we try to find something where it brings it at home, where they can think out of the box and not so much think about, well, I don't know that person, so I'm not going to get involved.
Have you ever had a student who was living in the shelter also be at the school that you teach?
Well, I will say this much about that. There are a lot of students that we meet when we go out into the schools, because there's another community educator as well. So we're all over the schools in Bamberg, Orangeburg, and Calhoun counties. A lot of times we never know who the students are. Some students will disclose and say,
Right.
I, may have stayed there, or maybe my parents had to attend Casa. We don't ask. A lot of times we ask them, have they ever heard of Casa Family Systems? And a lot of times, some of them will feel comfortable enough to address that.
What is the family dynamic like at Casa? Is it anonymous? Are they in a reserved area?
Well, when it comes to our clients who stay in our safe haven, which is our shelter, we try to keep that exactly what we say it is, a safe haven for them, to help them be able to get back on their feet, to help them get readjusted back into society, and to also help them to receive any services that they may need once they have decided to come into our shelter. So that part of it pretty much is anonymous, because we don't, a lot of times people will feel like somebody's looking down at them because
Right.
this has happened to them. So we try to make it as comfortable for them as we possibly can.
How long are the families able to live in the safe haven?
They are, once they come in the safe haven, they are able, once they get assessed by the case manager, they are able to stay there for 30 days. And every 30 days, they have to come back to the table and sit down to see where they are. And if they still need services, still need support, they're able to stay again for another 30 days. And then it also depends on, too, it's a lot of different components that play into that, because we have to also look at how many clients do we already have in place there, trying to always leave in some room, because you never know. With domestic violence, you just never know when
Right.
some type of violence is going on. So you don't want to be able to turn anybody away. You always want to be able to receive anyone who needs to come into the shelter.
What is a counseling session like?
A counseling session could be varied depending on the persons who's being counseled. Well, first of all, with our alternative methods program, which is our batterers intervention program, that's for the male or the female that has been convicted of criminal domestic violence. First of all, criminal domestic violence can be their first, their second, or their third. They can reoffend.
Really?
Yes, and sometimes when they reoffend, it may even be with a different person. It may or may not be with the same individual.
That is a lot of information. The counseling really does seem like it's helping, especially with the aggressors. What's next on the agenda for Casa?
Well, right now we have a very broad umbrella. We try to do a lot of community service with our community to keep them abreast of services that we provide. Even with all the work that we do, there are still so many different people that are not even aware that Casa Family Systems exists right here in Orangeburg, South Carolina. We have a lot of speaking engagements that we get invited to on different college campuses, as well as health fairs, as well as churches, back to school bashes, career fairs, just to even name a few, where we're trying to get our name out to first of all, let the community know that we're here. If you really think about it, I mean, long ago and long ago, people have been living in unhealthy relationships. You may even have a 50 or 60-year-old wife that has been in an unhealthy relationship and not know that Casa is here to be able to help her, to give her the services that she may need. So our biggest thing right now is we're working with teenage dating violence. That is our big thing that we're working with now. We have 1 in 4 teenagers that's being involved in unhealthy relationships. And again, that goes back to
25%.
that learned behavior that comes at
Right.
home. And the girls are starting to be the aggressive ones today.
If we're in an abusive relationship, how can we reach Casa?
Well, we have 2 different offices that's located on John C. Calhoun Drive. We also have our crisis hotline number
Really?
that can be called for our shelter if someone is in need of help or they need to get out of their home or their environment or wherever there is, and they got a time that they need to, because if you really think about it, you're going to try to get out when that person is not there. So we have a number that can be called, which is 531-6211. There's also the crisis hotline number. Another one of our information numbers is 534-2448, which is our main office, our administrative office. And then the office I work out of is 535-3351.
Thank you for tuning in to the exclusive interview with Ms. Valerie Allen. I hope the tips on domestic violence awareness were very helpful. Our Black Woman in Motion is Ms. Tamika Harper, also known as Georgia Me. Georgia Me has appeared on all 7 seasons of Dead Poetry Jam, Tyler Perry Madea Goes to Jail, and The Monique Show. She was even awarded her own day on May 4th by the cities of Atlanta, East Point, College Park, and Fulton County. Now that is a Black Woman in Motion. Thank you for tuning in to Kalina's Corner, and I'll see you on the next block.